about our schoolyard initiative. I'm Jackie Miller, Director of Youth Initiatives here at GOCO, and I'm here with Erica Meyer.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us.
Who you have all probably communicated with to participate in this call. We do want to alert you to the fact that there is a chat function as part of the webinar, and we encourage you to post any questions that you have in that chat area, and then we'll likely be talking about the Schoolyard Initiative for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then you will all have the remaining time until 11:30 to we can answer any questions that you put in that chat function. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So the agenda for this call will give you a quick kind of GOCO 101 for folks that aren't yet familiar with how we're funded. We're going to talk about the different funding opportunities that you have to get projects constructed. There is more than just the Schoolyard Initiative. We'll talk a little bit about the maximum grant amounts and the match requirements associated with our projects. We'll give you a pretty in-depth review of our Schoolyard Initiative, including what types of projects are eligible, what the partnership with your local government looks like. We'll talk about the partnership we have with Colorado Parks and Wildlife Schools and Outdoor Learning Environments program, and then give you some tips on how to complete a successful application, as well as review important dates, deadlines, etc., associated with the Schoolyard Initiative. So for folks that don't know, GOCO is entirely funded by the Colorado Lottery. This year, GOCO, the amount of money that we will receive to help implement our mission is $64.4 million. $1 million of that is allocated for our Schoolyard Initiative. A common misconception is that we do implement our mission with tax dollar support, and that is not a correct assumption. We are entirely funded by the Colorado Lottery. Per the constitutional amendment that created Great Outdoors Colorado, we are required to allocate our funding in 4 areas in substantially equal amounts over time. And so half of our money is invested into Colorado Parks and Wildlife for investments in state parks, as well as protection of critical wildlife habitat. And then the remaining half of our funding is divided into 2 categories for competitive grant opportunities. So a quarter of our funding goes directly to local governments for park development projects, trail development projects, as well as planning grants as well to plan for those types of projects. And then a quarter of our funding is goes for open space projects and the preservation of land for statewide significance. So the pot of funding that schoolyards are funded through is our local government purpose. And that is why many of you might know at this point that all the projects that are funded on school grounds have to be sponsored by a local government, as they are the only entities eligible to receive this funding based on our constitutional requirements. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So there are 2 grant opportunities to get projects on school grounds funded. The first one is our Schoolyard Initiative, and as I indicated, there's $1 million allocated for this initiative for this year. Actually, that is a $500,000 increase from where it was in the previous 4 years. So hopefully we'll be able to get more projects funded this year, as we've noticed that there's a tremendous amount of demand for schoolyard projects across the state. The second opportunity to receive funding for your school grounds is called our Local Parks and Outdoor Recreation Grant Program. This is the way we've divided the programs up, is that for any project that is needs to request $110,000 or less is to apply through our Schoolyard Initiative. And any project that needs more than that money, and more than $110,000 and up to $350,000, can apply through the LPOR program. These grant cycles are being offered at different times. The next time that an LPOR, actually this grant cycle for local parks and outdoor recreation applications are due in November, I believe, with grant awards being made next June. And I'll have to I'm not so fresh up on those application deadlines, so if that's inaccurate, I'll send an email to everyone. But our Schoolyard Initiative application is available now, and it's due in January. We do, through the Schoolyard Initiative, provide schools more time to complete their application because the student engagement process and design process, we believe, takes a little bit more time, and these are processes that are unique to the Schoolyard Initiative. So we've given schools more time to complete those applications, and with respect that schools are doing 6,001 things throughout the school year and, frankly, deserve more time to put their applications together. We'll talk about eligible and ineligible projects in a bit, but another thing that differentiates the Schoolyard Initiative from the Local Parks and Outdoor Recreation Grant opportunity is that through the Schoolyard Initiative, we're not helping schools to build competitive or sports fields or tracks and other components for competitive organized sports. And so if that's something that your school is interested in, a soccer field, a football field, a track, then that type of project should be applied for through the Local Parks and Outdoor Recreation Grant Program. I will say that the program manager for LPOR, his name is Jake Houston. If you want further information about the LPOR grant program, then please feel free to contact Jake, and he can provide you with more information for that. So the match requirements for both initiatives are identical. We do require that schools bring forth a 10% overall match, cash match to the table, and a 15% in-kind match to the table for a total match requirement of 25%. So this means that GOCO will never fund more than 75% of your total project cost up to that maximum grant amount of, in this case, Schoolyard Initiative, $110,000. So any cash that's brought to the table, any additional grants that you receive, any funding that your local government might want to contribute to your project, any fundraisers your students do or your PTA does, any cash in hand that will contribute to this project can count towards your cash match requirement. So in-kind contributions would be contributions of equipment or services. So say you work with a playground vendor and your vendor gives you a 20% discount on that playground equipment, you can use that value of that 20% off donation towards your in-kind contributions. Or say, for example, you have a parent in your school and your parent does landscape design professionally, and that parent wants to donate their services to do your conceptual plan for your schoolyard. You could use the donated value of that person's time towards your in-kind contributions because that person is a professional at that work and would otherwise be paid for those services. So we know that understanding what can count as cash match or what can count as in-kind match can be a little bit confusing. So we definitely encourage you to contact Erica at any time throughout the application process with any question, frankly, but also questions about your budgeting and what constitutes cash or in-kind contributions. So our 2007 Schoolyard Initiative, the mission of this initiative is really to create school grounds that inspire more active physical play and enhancing learning about nature and the environment. So you'll notice that the application requires you to have both places for play and places for outdoor learning. We find that the more that we can encourage people to use these spaces for play and learning, the more hopefully incentive maybe teachers or administration have to actually use the site as part of the average school day for students, to have science classes outside, to have reading outside, to do art outside. I think we're all understanding the benefits of outside time for our children for multiple reasons, and so hopefully through new and invigorated spaces, we can encourage them to be used throughout the day for more than just recess. So there are a few cornerstone requirements to our Schoolyard Initiative, and before I launch into these, I just want to remind folks that you're welcome to use the chat function to ask any questions that you might have, and we can move through those questions at the end of the presentation. So a few of the cornerstone requirements of our schoolyard initiative. First, we believe what makes our schoolyard program such a success is the fact that the schoolyards must be designed in part by the student population. And it's really what GOCO wants to be responding to are projects that have been dreamed up and visioned by the kids who are actually going to benefit from these projects. I think oftentimes as adults, we oftentimes think that we know what's best for kids, but in the end, kids know what's best for kids. And let's put them in the driver's seat of designing their own school play yard. We also have to say it's really the student engagement and student leadership as part of these projects are really what makes the benefits of these projects multidimensional. Because not only are students really winning a great new play yard, but they are learning about a democratic process, about voting, about how to engage parts of their student peers who might not otherwise feel like they have a voice and give them a voice in choosing the types of projects that they want to build on their school grounds. We know student task forces have a tremendous success going before, you know, the school boards and city councils for the local government who might be sponsoring this project to ask them to help support this project. And oftentimes this is resulting in student council members writing $10,000 checks from their own personal accounts because they're so persuaded by the amount of time and effort these kids have dedicated to this process. So it really, the student engagement process from our perspective really takes on a life of its own, and it's what makes this initiative so compelling to both GOCO staff and our board. The application that we sent to you has a few helpful tips for ways that you can engage your student population, so we encourage you to look at those, and if you have questions about that, just give us a call and we can provide you some more helpful tips. We will tell you that a surefire way to get your project rejected is to have a top-down proposal. So a project that doesn't involve student engagement or a process that did really superficial student engagement, but you can tell that this is a project that's been maybe part of the capital improvement plan for the school for a few years and it's just administration directing the type of project that this should be. That in and of itself will likely not get your project funded. So we take this student engagement process really seriously, and we ask that if you're serious about securing these funds that you please do the same. So all the projects that we fund, of course, must be constructed on school grounds, but there have been instances where we have funded projects on property adjacent to school grounds. So in one instance, the local government owned property that abutted school grounds, and that local government was working directly with the student body at that school to re-envision that site and to open up access to that site for the students at that school. So we will consider funding projects that on property adjacent to school grounds if, of course, the primary purpose of that project is to serve that school. As I indicated, these projects must include places to both play and learn outdoors. We also, the most competitive projects through this grant cycle are projects that consider natural components and natural schoolyards and living outdoor places to learn. So while a shade structure that is going to be used as an outdoor classroom is compelling, it's not going to be as compelling as a project that might include a similar shade structure, but also a butterfly garden or xeriscape gardens that are actually living outdoor classrooms. So we encourage you to get creative about natural playscapes and natural outdoor classrooms, and we're happy to talk through what those different opportunities might be for you. We also have a list of recommended, not even recommended, but a list of design experts who have wisdom and expertise in building living outdoor classrooms that we're happy to forward that to you so that you can pick their brain as professionals about how creative and compelling can you actually get with this space. And we encourage you to dream big through this. Build things that you never thought were possible for your school grounds, and think, you know, traditional playground equipment is good, but how can you couple traditional playground equipment with really cool gardens and really cool places to learn outdoors. We can allocate funding to build new schoolyards. So if you've just constructed a new school and you need to build an entirely new school play yard, we're happy to contribute to that. Or if you have existing facilities that have reached their useful life on your school grounds, perhaps there's playgrounds there that parents of the students at that school and perhaps even grandparents played on that same equipment, which we have seen before, we're happy to invest funding to help you enhance existing facilities on your school grounds. Because GOCO works with public dollars, as funded through the Colorado Lottery, all of the projects that we fund have to have reasonable public access. And so when school is not in session, that schoolyard has to be open to the general public for use. And so if you have questions about what reasonable public access looks like and what's acceptable, we're happy to work through that thought with you as well. But when the school and the local government signs off on the grant application, you sign off on and agree to provide public access to this school when school is not put to this site when school is not in session. So you will see that part of the requirement for the Schoolyard Initiative is that you work with a professional design consultant to help prepare conceptual design documents as part of your application process. The reason that we encourage you and actually require you to work with a professional design consultant is we've oftentimes found that schools don't really have the experience in designing a schoolyard, nor should you have the experience in designing a schoolyard. And there's a lot of things that need to be thought through when you are designing a schoolyard, like infrastructure needs, drainage needs, sight lines, a lot of things that a professional design consultant will help you work through to ensure that if your project's funded, there's no surprises when it comes to the amount of work or money that needs to be dedicated to ensure that you're building a site that's going to be sustained long into the future. And so what we've asked you to do is work with a design consultant to get you to the point where you have conceptual design documents that you can submit with your grant application. And then if your grant is awarded, we are allowing you to use up to $10,000 of your grant award towards completing those design services. So that'll get you through to construction documents and those sorts of things. Again, we do have a list of about 7 to 10 professional design consultants who have worked on not just GOCO schoolyard projects in the past, but other schoolyard projects, learning landscape projects in Denver, etc. They've worked with urban, rural, and mountain schools. So if you need some support and guidance on who to reach out to help you navigate through this process and folks that have experience with the GOCO process, and we're happy to share that information with you. Just feel free to give Erica a call and she can pass that information along to you. So one of the really great aspects about this year's Schoolyard Initiative is that we are partnering with Colorado Parks and Wildlife schools and outdoor learning environments for elementary school projects that are funded through the Schoolyard Initiative. So the benefit of working with SOL is that it's kind of a two-step approach. So GOCO will come in and help you build a really compelling space, and then projects that do have great outdoor classrooms to offer can also become part of the SOL program at no added cost to the school. And what SOL does is they come in and they provide teacher training on how to help activate the outdoor space. They host family nature nights on school grounds, which are a really great way to build community at your school in an outdoor space. And then they help you and host fourth grade field trips to nearby natural spaces and state parks. So it's an added kind of field trip opportunity for those fourth graders at your school. So in our opinion, partnering with SOL, again, helps you activate your newly constructed space in a really meaningful way and helps support your teachers, who we understand are really probably tapped out from doing all the important work that they already have to do and can't really think about how to maybe activate this space as one additional responsibility that they might have. So hopefully it's supportive for the teachers in your school to go through this teacher training to help provide some guidance and tips on how to best activate that site. This is an optional opportunity for you all. You don't have to become part of this whole program. If you're in elementary school and you are awarded this grant, it's an opportunity that you're welcome to take advantage of. And again, it's at no added direct cost to the school other than spending time to invest in the opportunities that SOL has to offer. So as I indicated earlier in the webinar, that because of the constitutional amendment that created GOCO and the narrow list of entities who are really eligible to apply for our funding, in order to get projects on schools constructed, you have to partner with your local government as your fiscal agent for this project. So you have to partner with whoever jurisdiction your school lies in. So if it's in a municipality's jurisdiction, then you apply through the municipality. If you're an unincorporated community, you can apply through your county. If you are serviced by a special park and recreation district, you can apply through the Park and Rec District as well. So again, eligible entities are cities, towns, counties, and Title 32 Park and Recreation Districts. If you're confused about which local government could be eligible to apply on your behalf, again, that's something that Erica and or I are happy to work through that process with you. This is a process that has been working pretty well, not just for GOCO Schoolyard Initiative, but for all of our local government competitive grant programs. So if it's new to you or new to your local government, then we're happy to also get on a separate call with you and your local government to help walk you through what exactly this relationship looks like. You'll find in your application packet that there is an extensive list of both what the local government agrees to, the responsibilities the local government agrees to fulfill, and the responsibilities that the school agrees to fulfill. Both entities are required to sign the grant application and also required to submit letters of support documenting their interest in entering into agreements to get this project executed and to maintain and operate it over time. You will be required to enter into an intergovernmental agreement and formalize that agreement if your project is funded. Again, GOCO has sample templates of intergovernmental agreements. Should be on our website. It is on our website, according to Erica, which is great. If you're having trouble locating where that IGA is on our website, we're happy to help you out with that as well. But this is not a document that you should feel the need to start with from scratch. Any way we can help support you in putting that together, we will. Some schools already have executed IGAs with their local governments for various reasons. If that's the case and you think that that IGA helps, but will help with this GOCO grant as well, you're welcome to use an IGA that already exists. The local government role is pretty straightforward. So it can really be the school that is putting the application together. The school can be the primary contact for communicating with GOCO. The school can put all the progress reporting information together, the final reporting information together. What it comes down to is that the local government has to sign off on any formal communications with GOCO, including the grant agreement. They do have to sign the application. If you're requesting a project modification, if your project's funded, they have to sign that paperwork as well. So, and then they also have to act as the pass-through for grant funding. So when progress reports or final reports come to GOCO and you're looking to get some of your grant funding distributed, then GOCO will direct our funding to the local government, and then the local government has to redirect that funding to the school that made that investment. I don't think we cover payment options anywhere in this grant, this presentation, so I want to just briefly talk about that right now. There are three options for payment for schoolyard projects, none of which involves GOCO showing up on the school doorstep with a giant check and balloons to say, hey, here's all your money, now go and do all this fabulous work. As much as we would love to do that, because I think it'd be a blast, We do offer grant payments mostly on a reimbursement basis. So we will never distribute more than 50% of your grant payment before your project is complete. So for every funding scenario, we withhold that 50% until your project is complete. You've submitted your grant report to GOCO, we've approved it, you've hung up a sign on the site, and at that point we can distribute the remaining 50% of your grant payment. There are two options for receiving additional payments throughout the lifetime of your grant. You can request an advance payment of up to 50%, and to get that advance payment you need to submit a executed contract or multiple contracts with vendors or consultants who are going to help you get your project completed. So this is before work starts on your project, so before money has actually gone out the door. It's kind of at the financial commitment stage. Once you've made that commitment to pay a vendor or consultant a certain amount of money, we can release up to 50% of that grant payment with review of that contract. If you don't want an advance payment, you can elect to receive a progress payment. You can receive one progress payment throughout the lifetime of your grant for expenditures made to date. So say you're a year in and you've finalized your design services, you've done a lot of the site improvements and site cleanup, and you've maybe poured the safety surfacing. And at that time, you want to request up to 50% of your grant award as a progress payment for expenditures made to date. Then we can, with completion of a progress payment report form, submit all that information or submit that payment to you. If you are awarded funding, we do a new grantee orientation teleconference, and as part of that teleconference, we cover all the policies and procedures associated with administering your grant. So we're not going to cover a ton of that right now. So eligible project components for your schoolyard project. We're really encouraging natural and wild zone playscapes. You can also include traditional playground equipment. If you do include traditional playground equipment, we ask that you really consider pairing that traditional playground equipment with more natural and living components as well. Climbing structures and safety surfacing. Of course, we've talked about outdoor classrooms and shade structures or pavilions, gardens, interpretive signage, informal recreation fields and basketball hoops. So if your school really just needs some green space to play, but it's not a regulation-sized sports field, then you can certainly apply for that project through this schoolyard initiative. And then kind of all of the accessories to your play yard, if you will, picnic tables, benches, and drinking fountains. We understand that infrastructure components are a necessary part of your schoolyard project, and so infrastructure improvements are eligible, but if you apply only for an infrastructure-only project, you're not going to get funded. It's just not going to be a compelling type of project. So again, just remember that these are places to play and places to learn outside, and they should include components for each. And infrastructure improvement should be an added component to an overall project. Some ineligible project components. I think we've talked about this a lot already, but again, no regulation-sized fields or courts. We can't pay local government staff or school staff to work on this project, but if you're hiring an outside consultant or a parent or what have you to get this work done, then we will consider the value of their time towards your match requirements as well. We don't fund operations or maintenance of your schoolyard or any administrative costs, so we won't use grant funding to help you pay for the grant writer who's going to put your project together, and you can't use the value of that towards your match anything as well. So any components that are deemed ineligible you cannot only request a GOCO grant for that, but your matching funds can't be used for those things either. So programmatic funding, if you're partnering with a local gardening club or you're partnering with a Boys and Girls Club that's going to come and use your site, unfortunately you can't use the value of that program towards your match either, and grant funding can't be used for that. Same goes for non-fixed assets, so soccer balls, lawnmowers, you know, what pens and pencils to use in your outdoor classroom, those things are ineligible as well. Also, work completed prior to grant awards cannot be used towards match either, with the exception of design and engineering costs. So if you installed a piece of playground equipment before this grant is awarded, you can't use the value of that playground equipment towards your match requirements, or the work required to get that playground equipment installed towards your match requirements. So in order to have eligible project components, they have to, the costs for those components have to be incurred on or after the grant award date in April. The question line is empty still, and I just wanted to reiterate that if you have any questions, concerns, thoughts to share, that you're welcome to use the chat function to do that, and we can spend the last 20 minutes or so of the call answering those questions. So a few helpful tips. Please contact and partner with your eligible entity before applying. So your first step for a school is really reaching out to your local government to ensure that they are going to be all in and supportive of being the fiscal agent for your project. It would be a real shame if the school got down the line and, through the journey of applying for this grant, to only find out later on that your local government is not open to serving in that role for you. So that is your first step. And again, if you need help with the name of the person to contact in your local government, please contact Erica or myself, and we can help you with that. Typically, it's the Park and Rec director in that local government that would be most aware of this program, has likely worked through a GOCO application process before, and can help you navigate what that looks like. We ask you to contact GOCO staff before applying. Erica is really happy to talk to you about your thoughts on your student engagement process, and once your students have identified the components that they want to see on school grounds, you can call Erica again to say, these are the components we're thinking of. Do you think they're going to be competitive? Again, we really see ourselves as advocates for you. We legitimately want to support your success in this process to the best that we can. And the only way that we have the opportunity to support your success is if you reach out to us and allow us to help you navigate this process. We also realize that for a lot of the representatives from schools that will likely be working on this project, that you don't have as much of the experience with the GOCO process that some of our local government partners do. And so, frankly, we expect more questions and calls coming in from you all. And again, we welcome those phone calls. We welcome those emails. We really want to help you maximize your time and ensure that you're taking all the right steps to submit a really compelling school play yard project to our process. We do invite you to submit your application, your draft application, so your budget and your selection criteria, up to 2 weeks in advance of the grant deadline. This gives Erica an opportunity to read through that application and to identify any holes or questions that she might have about your project prior to final submission. All projects are reviewed by 2 GOCO staff members as well as 3 outside peer reviewers. To keep our process really transparent, we work with outside peer reviewers to help us score these projects. And the benefit of submitting your draft application in advance is that Erica can try to help you kind of cross your T's and dot your I's to ensure that herself and those peer reviewers don't have any questions lingering once they review your proposal. So the application is currently available on our website, so we encourage you to download that now if you haven't. There's 10 questions associated with the selection criteria You're asked to answer those 10 questions in or less. There is a window. We do take online submissions of grant applications, and there's instructions in the application about how you go about uploading your finished application to our online server, if you will. You're welcome to work on the entire application. You'll see it's a Word document right now that you'll pull off of our website. You can work through that entire Word document starting at any date. but there's a short window in which you have to actually upload your application into our system, and those dates are indicated in the grant application. So just tune into that. We encourage you not to wait until January 10th to upload your document. That, January 8th or 9th allows you to work through some kinks you might experience with uploading that information. Again, we're available to help you work through that. If you come up with a, if you hit a snag and getting it on our website, we want to be available to help you work through that. So important dates. Application again posted. Draft applications are due to Erica by December 19th. Final applications are due to us by January 10th, and then we will award dates sometime first week of April, or actually our board's reconsidering that, potentially last week in March or first week of April is when you will find out is awarded. And then there you have our information. Please contact Erica or myself, again, at any time. We want to be able to support you in any way that we can, and are more than happy to do that. And with that, we are done. Are there, now is the time to get into that chat function and ask any questions that you might have. And actually, there are a few there. Let's see. Oh, good. I thought there were none, and there are plenty. So we will work through these in the next half hour. So the first question is, would you consider funding the rehabilitation of an outdoor space that was adversely affected by the 2013 floods? Our school has an outdoor classroom known as the Habitat that was built in 1990 and has served as the inspiration for the Wildlife Schoolyard Initiative program and has been certified. They need to rebuild an amphitheater that's now underwater and unusable. I guess we'd want to talk through this project with this entity because it does kind of skirt the line of eligibility because they aren't going to be building traditional playground equipment or an outdoor learning space, and so it wouldn't be competitive through the Schoolyard Initiative, but we do see this as a needed project, and so we will likely redirect you to the mini grant program. And Jake and Madison are responsible for the mini grant program. You can pull information about the mini grant program up on our website, and their contact information is listed there, and you can contact them for more information. How do we get to the next question here? It's so small. So this person, we have a question that says, we have an architect willing to do the initial design free or at an extremely reduced cost. Can we use the $10,000 per design towards other costs then? The response to that is yes. You can then shuffle that additional $10,000 into other project components associated with your project. And for folks wondering if our slides are going to be available online, the answer is yes. We will be making this presentation available online as soon as this call is ended. Okay. How you look at ADA compliance, we ask you to adhere to state and federal regulations associated with ADA and leave that up to the school and the local government to work out directly. We assume, because that is a regulation, a state and federal regulation, that you will abide by ADA requirements, but we don't police that as part of the application or funding process. And the next question is, can you give some examples of how to engage students in the design project? We're thinking of secondary age students. So ways that we've seen people engage students is you can put together on an 8.5 by 11 page sheet, kind of like a bingo card of opportunities, if you will. And so you can have individual squares that highlight different opportunities, like a climbing structure, a vegetable garden, a walking trail with plants and environmental education signage. There's a whole host of things that you could offer, or an outdoor classroom. And some student task force have used this option of 12 or so opportunities. They've handed this out to students, and students have maybe picked their top 3 choices from that menu of options. We've seen other students do written essays about what they'd like to see on their school grounds, and then the student task force works through those essays to help identify, themes that may have emerged. People have done clay moldings of the type of projects they want to see funded. There's been bulletin boards built in the lobby of the school, and students wrote in or cut out a picture of something that they'd like to see on their school grounds, and they posted that on the bulletin board. There's a whole host of creative ways that you might be able to engage the students. We can also send you sample applications for the top scoring applications from the previous few grant cycles to see what other schools have successfully done. I already think there's a few of those listed on the website. So we really we encourage you to look on the website at those sample applications to see what other successful schools have done to engage their students. We have another question here. Is paint considered a non-fixed asset? Nope, you can certainly paint your projects and count that towards your match. Another question is, as you evaluate projects, are extra points or consideration given for schools with 0 outdoor facilities over schools with facilities? So for example, we are a charter school with 1,600 kids and only have blacktop and a pile of sand for our kids. Yes, that demonstrates a compelling need. And so I wouldn't say there's extra points or extra consideration for schools with 0 outdoor facilities. But it's up to the schools to actually demonstrate a need. So a school that has nothing will be very successful in demonstrating a need for this funding. But a school that has equipment that's 30 to 40 years old, even though there is equipment, it's going to be very compelling. The need to replace that old, outdated, likely dangerous equipment is also a very compelling need. So a question is the grant for K through 12 schools only, and are private schools eligible? Yes, no, the answer is no. So we will fund ECE facilities as well. And yes, we will fund all the way up through 12th grade. We fund charter and public schools. We have yet to fund a private school. We want to work through public access associated with a private school. We're not opposed to it, but definitely want to have the conversation with that school to make sure we're all on the same page. So we encourage the person who asked that question to give us a call, and we can talk through that. Question, is there a time frame for beginning the project and completion once funds are awarded? That's a great question. You have 2 years from the date of award to get your projects completed. So projects that are awarded in April of 2017, you're required to complete those projects by April of 2019. There are oftentimes reasons that may interfere with an applicant's ability to get the project done in that time frame. And there's a whole overdue grants procedure that we have here at GOCO to work through that scenario with you. But I will say that GOCO, what contributes to a competitive project is demonstration that you will get your project completed in that 2-year time frame. So question, can we also get the locations of the slides to see some options and types of projects funded? Not quite sure I understand this question, but
The pictures that we used?
Oh yeah, if it's the pictures that we use, oh, I know what you're saying. So what you're asking is, can we identify the locations for the pictures that were used on the slides? Sure, we can do that, I think. Yeah. With a little bit of work. That might take us a little bit of time to pull that together, but we can certainly pull that together for you. Questions, do projects with higher participation rate in terms of funds, say a 50% match, score higher? That's also a great question. We no longer score on an applicant's ability to exceed match because what we have found is that schools and communities who raise money just to meet those minimum match requirements have likely worked very hard to do that. And so even if, if a school students held 2 fundraisers and they went door to door asking for money from their neighbors and local businesses, they went before city council, and they were just able to raise enough money to meet that minimum match, that is very compelling to us. And we didn't want to negatively score projects that just met minimum match requirements, but that demonstrated a great commitment to fundraising for that project. So the answer is no, but what we do consider, again, is the effort in which that school worked to raise matching funds and the ability of that school to help establish partners for this project through those efforts. And then the percentage of your match that's secure at the time of application. Again, I just communicated that shovel-ready projects are very competitive projects, and part of what makes your project shovel-ready is your secured match in hand. And what we generally look for is that you have at least 75% of your matching funds secured at the time of application. That's kind of our benchmark for determining if this project is shovel-ready according to secured matching funds or not. Question, how many applicants are typical in a grant cycle? So last year we saw about 28 grant applications as part of the first round. We whittled that down to being able to fund 7 projects. This year we have more money available. So last year we only had $500,000 available. This year we have $1 million available. So hopefully we're able to fund, 12 to 15 projects this grant cycle. What is a typical time frame you have seen for playground completion? It depends. We've seen some schools really, bust it out that first summer right after grants are awarded in April, and we've seen some schools need additional time to raise that remaining 25% of matching funds to get their projects completed, and they've done it in the 2-year time frame. So it really just depends on where you're at the time of application and how poised and ready you are to start building. Basically, the timeline is completely up to the school and dependent on your school's ability to get it done. Question, we are on the Western Slope and have contacted local designers to work with us. Is that allowed, or do we need to inform you of that? Nope, you don't need to inform us of anything. It's completely your prerogative about who you want to work with to be your professional design consultant. We don't police that in any way, so feel free to run with it. Question, we live in a rural community where most students' parents are farmers with heavy equipment or small business owners. While fundraising, we have been offered large climbing boulders, wood chips, steel structures, framing gardens. Can we use those materials with this grant? How lucky are you? That is my response to that. Yeah, that's fantastic. You are welcome to use all of that towards your match requirements, but they will be in-kind contributions, so they can meet that 15% in-kind contribution requirement because they were donated to you and you didn't use cash to purchase those items. Question, have you seen schools use the Colorado Health Foundation's physical activity infrastructure grants as part of a larger project and counted towards match? Absolutely. If you secure a grant from the Health Foundation and that grant is relevant to the components that you'll be building as part of your GOCO funded school ground project, then you are absolutely welcome to use that grant towards your match requirements. And as of now, that was the last question. And we'll stick around in the chat. I think once we hang up, we can keep the chat function open. So once we hang up, we'll keep the chat function open for the next, say, 5 minutes or so. And we're happy to continue to respond to those. But in the meantime, if things come up after this call, in the next week, month, what have you, Please, again, contact Erica with any questions, concerns, thoughts you might have. We really look forward to talking with you all. We hope you apply, and we want to be here to support your success in any way that we can. So thanks for dedicating an hour of your time to work through this webinar. We hope you find it helpful, and we look forward to reading your compelling projects when they come in January. Thanks a lot.